Ciao ragazzi e benvenuti a questa edizione di Commissioner on a Couch. So that was in honor of this week's hat. So for the first time this season, we have neither an undefeated nor a winless team in the league, so hooray for parity. Let's get right into the no-huddle. The first order of business is that after holding a league vote, it was decided that our league name will remain the league for the foreseeable future. So thank you to everyone who gave their input. Next up, in honor of the Walking Dead getting their first W of the season and Caught Red Hernandez suffering their first defeat, let me hit you up with some historical wins and losses facts. So the most wins in a season under the current 13-game regular season format was by a team called The Shirt Before the Shirt, managed by myself, in the 2010 season with 12 wins. The most wins in a season, including the old 14-game format, was by Ben Joseph's team, Make It Rain, in 2007 with 13 wins. The longest all-time winning streak was by the Redskin Warriors in 2011 with 8 wins. The longest winning streak this season was by Caught Red Hernandez with 4 wins, well, up to now. The most losses in a season goes to the Big Tibowski, managed by JP Mancini in the 2012 season with 11 losses. The longest all-time losing streak was also by the Big Tibowski in the 2012 season with 6 losses. Obviously a forgettable season for them. And the longest losing streak this season was by the Walking Dead with 4 losses. So there you have it, boys. Since everyone has a loss already, it looks like no one will be equaling the all-time wins record. There is still a possibility that Caught Red Hernandez equals the 12-win record for the current 13-game regular season, though. As for the all-time losses record, there are still a handful of teams that could break or equal that kind of horrible season, so let's hope that isn't the case. The weekly recap. So here's a recap of last week's matchups. Chalupa Batmans versus Caught Red Hernandez. After getting off to a very hot start, Caught Red Hernandez suffered their first defeat of the season against the Chalupa Batman squad that was without RG3 and Adrian Peterson. Pretty incredible stuff if you consider that Gronk is still out for the Chalupas. As well, Hernandez received some help at wide receiver with the activation of Justin Blackman after a 4-game suspension. And he put up almost 20 points in his first week of action and looks to be a serious threat going forward. Keys to the victory for the Chalupas were the acquisitions of Terrell Pryor and Mason Crosby, who combined for 40 points to fill some bye-week holes. It also helps when Noshawn Marino puts up 21 points while Adrian Peterson is on a bye. So from here on out, I'm thinking of calling him Yes Sean. Right, guys? Right? No? Anyways. Hernandez did catch some tough breaks, though, this week. The injury to Brad Hoyer rendered tight end Jordan Cameron completely ineffective. As well, Fred Jackson and his 21 points were kept on the bench in favor of Darren Sproles, who only put up 4 points. So it's a big, big win for the Chalupas, who now sit at 3-2 after a third consecutive victory. Walking Dead versus the Jube Stars. Congratulations to the Walking Dead for their first victory of the season. They easily got past a Jube Stars team that can't find any answers right now. That's the 3rd loss in a row for the Jube Stars, who absolutely need to shake up their roster if they want to stay in the hunt. So my suggestion would be to look for a number 1 running back. On the flip side, it must feel good to get a win, but it's still an uphill battle for Manigadez, who are the only team averaging less than 100 points per week through the first 5 weeks of the season. The biggest area of concern for them is definitely at the tight end position. While Brent Selleck did have a decent game this past weekend, he can't really be relied upon as a consistent number 1 tight end. So it's time to find a dance partner, Dez. Next up, the All Blacks versus My Password is Taco. After winning a game that they should have definitely lost last week, the All Blacks lost a matchup that I thought they should have won this week to a Taco squad that was finally able to stop the bleeding. The Arizona defense put up 26 points, and Justin Tucker put up 18 points to lead Taco to a comfortable victory against an All Black squad that is loaded at wide receiver, but perhaps lacking a little bit at running back and tight end. It just goes to show you that you really can't underestimate those last 2 positions on your roster, as they are often the difference between a victory or a defeat. Val Venus versus Bo Knows Football. The Drew Brees-led Val Venus squad did not get very much help from its supporting cast in a loss to Bo Knows Football this week. This despite an early exit by QB Michael Vick in his game against the Giants, and some very unimpressive running back numbers by the Bow squad. The difference maker here was once again the unheralded kicker and defense positions, where Bow put up 30 combined points versus the 12 put up by Val Venus. That's 2 wins in a row now for Bow after an 0-3 start, so this team looks like it's headed in the right direction. As for Val Venus, despite the loss, they still lead the Franco-Harris Conference with a 3-2 record because of a 2-0 divisional record. Rafi Bombs versus Points on Points. This one wasn't the game of the week for nothing. It was by far the highest scoring matchup of the week. Points on Points built enough of a lead to stave off Matty Ice on Monday Night Football for a 6-point victory against the Rafi Bombs. Same old story for Points on Points, as Peyton Manning put up another ridiculous performance, scoring nearly 37 points. As for the Rafi Bombs, it was a very solid effort across every position except defense, where Houston contributed nothing to the effort by scoring 0 points. Even though they now sit at 2-3, the Rafi Bombs are still only 1 win away from the division lead, and I think they're going to be a tough squad to play against all season long. Meanwhile, Points on Points sits third overall, 1 game back from Caught Red Hernandez in the Jerome Bettis division, and Jerome Bettis conference, despite having the most points against by quite a wide margin. Now let's take a look ahead at next week's matchups, or this weekend's matchups. So last week I went 2-3 again with my predictions. That brings my season total to 4-6. Not the best record, but let's see how I can do this week. First up, Chalupa Batmans versus my password is Taco. AP is coming off a bye, and word on the street is that Gronk will be back this week in what should be a very high-scoring affair against the New Orleans Saints. For those 2 reasons, I have to go with the Chalupas in this matchup. I also don't see the Arizona defense putting up 26 points for a second consecutive week, especially since they're playing the 49ers. Jupe Stars versus Bo Knows Football. The Jupe Stars will be without one of their top and most consistent performers this week in Tony Gonzalez. That's a very big deal because the Jupe Stars don't have a second tight end on the roster, and there are tons of other question marks around the rest of their roster. As for Bo, if Michael Vick can't go, Cam Newton is ready to be inserted into the lineup. It also looks like Calvin Johnson will be back this week. I'm not sold on Bo's running backs just yet, and I think that's a definite area for improvement, but nonetheless, I'm picking Bo Knows Football to win this matchup. Walking Des versus Points on Points. Neither of these teams will be affected by the bye week, so it will be a true test of grit with both optimal rosters going head-to-head. On paper, this matchup looks rather one-sided and easy to predict. Points on Points is predicted to get a higher score. Peyton and the Broncos are playing Jacksonville, so it should be a no-brainer to pick Points on Points over the Walking Des. For some reason, though, my gut is telling me that the Walking Des will come out of this Week 6 matchup victorious. I don't know why. It could be because they got a taste of victory last week, and now they can't get enough. Or perhaps because Peyton and Eric Decker won't have anything more than an average week against the Jaguars due to such a lopsided score. They might be rested come the third quarter, so they won't put up those huge numbers. In any case, this is football, not math, so even though everything in my head is telling me to pick Points on Points, I'm going to go with the Walking Des to win this one. Val Venus versus the Rafi Bombs. Matt Ryan is on a bye week, and Josh Freeman won't be starting for the Vikings this week, so that's a tough situation for the Rafi Bombs, who now need to find a waiver wire quarterback. I know it's only Week 6, but this is a very important game in terms of final seeding for 2 division rivals in the Franco-Harris Conference. The difference here will be Arian Foster, who's going to get a heavy workload, in my opinion, and lots of fantasy points against the Rams, since Matt Schaub forgot how to play quarterback. Game Blouses. Val Venus Blouses, that is. Sorry, Rafi Bombs. Maybe next week. The game of the week this week is Caught Red Hernandez versus the All Blacks. So this is last season's champion against this season's best team. Based on the projection, it looks like Hernandez should have no trouble getting back on track and getting the win here. But the game isn't decided by projections, it's decided by actual performance. The All Blacks really have some home run hitting running backs. And a lot of them haven't broken loose yet this season, so this could be the week that happens. Chris Johnson is by far one of the most frustrating fantasy players to own. But he's also the kind of player who rips off an 80-yard touchdown run against a defense like the Seahawks just because he needs to stretch his legs out, and he wants to remind you that he got paid once upon a time. More often than not, though, a big play like that is all you need to get the W. Conversely, Hernandez has a couple of stud running backs of his own who are definitely more consistent on a week-to-week basis. Combine that with a little sprinkle of Jimmy Graham and mix it all together with perhaps a vintage Tom Brady performance, and I think you're looking at another win here for Cartwright Hernandez. So that's the way I see it all shaping up for this week, boys. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday. Eat your turkey. Peace.